Call this video picking up where we left off. 1 year ago, after having my spinal cord stimulator removed, I was staying with what I thought was a friend. It was a married couple that offered to help me out because I was in Texas dealing with health issues and I was alone. I agreed to allow the move to Wisconsin. I stayed in their home. After my surgery, and in addition to their family having issues, I was asked to move out. I have the text messages where she says her mom is ill and will need to take the room that I'm occupying. So I agreed to find a place. I asked, "Will you help me?" and was told yes, but in reality, the answer was no. So on my own, I found the place that I'm staying in now. It's a 1-bedroom apartment, and I signed a lease mostly because it has 1-story access, a front door, a back door, and at the time I was on a walker and using a cane, so it worked out for me. There's also a detached garage, which I thought would come in handy due to the extreme winters in Wisconsin. At the time, I had a caregiver, and she's the one who did most of my packing at the home in Cornell, Wisconsin. Simultaneously, and another story, I rented my home to a caregiver that was taking care of me in Texas before moving up here. Her and her significant other, they weren't married and had a child. Both of them lost their job and stopped paying rent, and stopped paying in general. They weren't paying utilities or anything. So I was out of pocket for that. About, I think they moved in September. Yeah, because I left in September of 2024, and they moved in as I was moving out type of situation. The couple that helped me convinced me to put most of my things in boxes, which I did. So most of my things were piled up in what I called the office. I had a 4-bedroom home, and one of the bedrooms was used as an office. So all of my things were in the office and the garage. My ex had built a false wall in the garage. And so a lot of this stuff was behind the false wall in the garage. All right, so, and bear with me because it's a lot of what I can recall and attempting to keep track of the timeline because, like I said, I was here in Wisconsin and things were occurring in Texas, and they kind of intertwine. So the couple in Wisconsin refused to take me back to Texas. I find an apartment here in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. I have no way to go retrieve my things. So a friend in Florida flew to Minnesota because Minneapolis is closer than whatever the airport in Wisconsin is. I think Milwaukee. Anywho, the friend flew in. I was at least in the condition where I could drive and pick him up from the airport. So we drive from Minneapolis, Minnesota to Sherman, Texas. I'm laughing because this is where the story gets mind-blowing. So we arrive late at night. I'm speaking. I think my dog senses my anxiety, don't you? Mute. Okay, so we arrive late night, March of 2025 in Sherman, Texas. And when I say I walked into a war zone, I'm not exaggerating. I will search some pictures and try to attach them to the end of this video to show you what I walked into. I'll follow that statement up with my home had just been remodeled due to a whole house flood. So everything from the 4-foot line all the way around the home had just been replaced. New trim, new floors, new cabinets, new kitchen, new appliances, a newly remodeled home. All right, so put a pin in that. When I walked into what I saw, my home was trashed. The backyard was trashed. The garage was trashed. There was a sunroom, and it looked and smelled like a dog had just had a field day in there. They had an unauthorized pet. Every room of the home was in disarray. Yeah, it was what I call a nightmare. And they weren't home, so the friend and I called and said, hey, we're here, WTF, because my house was trashed. And so I maintained my composure the best I could because every ounce of me wanted to beat the shit out of that renter. I'm just being honest here. And so I maintained my composure. I, in a calm voice, said, how could you do this? She knew how much it took for me to get the home repaired. She knew how much out of pocket I was to get the appliances and cabinets. There were certain things that insurance wouldn't cover. And I mean, it just had to be replaced. It was ridiculous to remodel a home and leave what insurance called acceptable. To me, it was unacceptable. So yes, I did extend my savings to fix a home that I was currently living in. All right, so I feel like I'm getting off track. Anywho, the friend and I, the house was so trashed that the friend and I ended up getting an Airbnb. So we're staying at an Airbnb. I got in touch with attorneys. Attorneys told me to give them a 3-day eviction notice. I didn't get the opportunity to give them a 3-day eviction notice because they literally packed what they could and rolled out probably that night or the next night. I had the 3-day eviction in my hand and asked her to let me know, or no, I think on a sidebar, the friend had said, hey, you need to get this cleaned up. You know, she's here to collect her things. I don't remember. Like I said, it's fuzzy because if you've ever been in a trauma-inducing experience, you know what fight or flight feels like. I was definitely in the state of fight or flight. I was recovering from a spinal surgery. I was dealing with nervous system issues because the spinal cord stimulator regulated my nervous system, and it had just been yanked out 2 months prior. So what I call a living shit show. I survived the living shit show. I was able to gather the few things that remained of my home. Oh, another side note. She claims she didn't take any of my things. However, many of my things were missing. They were no longer there. She didn't know where they went. And she was the one responsible for the contents of my home, being the renter. So I'm dealing with recovering from a surgery. I'm dealing with the trauma of walking into my home being trashed. Like there's no other word for it other than trashed. And at the same time, we're trying to clean up the mess that she left behind. So as we're cleaning the mess she left behind, we notice a pile of water in I think it was the laundry room. We had picked up I think it was blankets or it was something picked up, and that's when the water was discovered. So we call the plumber. Plumber comes out, cuts a hole in the wall, discovers, hey, we have a leak, which ironically enough, it's in the exact same spot that the insurance repaired the year before. So pay the plumber, fix the leak, call the insurance. Insurance says nothing we can do about it. Call your current insurance, because my old insurance, after the house flood and repairs, ended up dropping me. Before the home was even completely repaired, my insurance company dropped me. So told to call the new company, start a claim, pay the deductible, and that ball is rolling. The friend and I leave probably to either go have lunch or take a mental break. Who knows? We left for whatever reason. And when we returned, the not contract, I don't know what they were called. I don't even recall who it was or why they were there. But people were there to assess the damage and ended up ripping out literally all of the flooring. So I left being told, hey, we're going to work on this area, which was considered the back of the house, where a office, laundry room, and eat-in kitchen was considered the damaged area, contained area. When I returned from whatever it was the friend and I were doing, the whole home had been demolished, is the word I use, because they took everything that was left and just turned it upside down. And I have a photo. I'll share that with you at the end of this video. That's what we were doing. We were going to pick up the U-Haul. So pick up the U-Haul, or no, reserving the U-Haul. Anywho, U-Hauls are reserved. What I could salvage is packed and being staged in the garage. At the same time, dryers are running, fans are running, and I can't even remember the name of the restoration company, but they're ripping up my home again, once again. So knowing that I couldn't stay to handle all of that, I had to hire property management. Called a few people that I knew that lived in town. One was an attorney, one was a realtor. I can't remember the other. Anywho, their recommendation was this particular company. So I call this particular company. They come over, do the assessment. They assure me that everything can be handled. They can take care of all of it. No worries, Miss Biggs. So I basically hand them the keys. I sign a contract and I leave. I have to be in Wisconsin. I'm due for follow-up and appointments, and I had already signed the lease on this apartment and yada yada yada. So see, that was just 2 weeks in March. Get back here, offload the truck. No one shows up, by the way. The people that promised to help from Cornell no showed. I think it was the husband that answered my call and said, yeah, we'll be right there. Never came. And then so it was up to the friend helping and a caregiver. At the time, I was on 9 hours of caregiving, sponsored by the VA, Veterans Administration. Between her and my friend, most of my things were unpacked, and we helped sort and basically try to get this place livable. And my friend had a deadline. He had to leave at a certain time. the caregiver puts in her 2-week notice. She had been with me for over 5 months and decides to put in puts in her 2-week notice. So I have 2 weeks with her to kind of get settled in here. And then from there, it just went back in the roller coaster. Different caregivers requesting assistance, not getting assistance, requesting social work, requesting an advocate, like just this constant barrage of requesting help. Oh, I forgot to include that most of my medical issues are due to surviving a lightning strike. Yes, I've had medical issues in the past as far as my military experience. I had a spinal collapse. I had more than one spinal collapse, but the last spinal collapse happened in 2010. I was working for, I think I was working for Department of Treasury then. But when the initial incident happened, I was active duty military. So active duty military, and then I become civil service, and then that's another story. It's part of the divorce story. Anywho, I don't even know what made me bring this up. Let me try to find my way back. I don't know. Anyway, it's been a year. I'm walking now. I'm talking now. And as you can see, I'm fairly calm despite trying to retell the story of what I've been doing over the past year. Like I said, I've only hit March, and I can laugh at myself. It's okay. When other people would laugh at me, I would get angry, but now I'm learning to laugh at it. It was beyond my control. It was things that just kept repeatedly happening, and it has taught me patience. It has taught me understanding, and it has taught me to go with the flow, which is what I'm about to do. It's a beautiful day outside. My dog is not as patient as I am, so I'll leave you with this video and we'll continue the rest later.